Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. It is competition, not war, says RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat of the recently concluded Lok Sabha elections, where the BJP emerged the single largest party but without a majority. The RSS chief also added that a true sevak does not have ahankar or arrogance and works without causing any hurt to others. Now, referring to the bitter poll campaign, he said decorum was not maintained. He said this in a gathering of RSS leaders and workers following the culmination of Karyakarta Vikas Varg. It's a periodic training program for RSS workers in Nagpur. The RSS chief made 5 points that we will take up one by one. But first, let me introduce my guests. Joining me to discuss this are Shantanu Gupta, author and analyst, Ajit Kumar Jha, political analyst, and in the studio is my colleague Brajesh Pandey. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Let me start by asking you this, Brajesh. To whom was the RSS chief's remarks directed at? To the party, to an individual, to the organization, or to no one in particular?
Well, I would say, Sandeep, that the individual is the organization, right, and the individual is the government. So whichever way you want to divide it, it was aimed at the BJP. It's very clear because, you know, the Congress, the RSS chief would not want to comment on the style of campaigning of Congress party and the ahankar which he is referring to, or the maryada. You know, many believe that when Prime Minister was campaigning post phase 1, you know, the template of election went for a toss, and then the language which was used as referring to
coarse language.
It went down the drain, you know, by every passing day. It looked like, you know, that it's not election campaign, but it's war against one particular community. And that is the reason why, and you know, once the number came, you know, there's also the reason why, I mean, people are asking, why didn't Mohan Bhagwat said this before, or when the entire campaign was happening? I think, you know, the RSS was also waiting for the result to come out. And once the numbers have come out, you know, it's like success has many fathers, failure has none. I think the BJP and Prime Minister would be realizing this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Failure is an orphan, Brajesh, but, you know, the point is that the BJP seems to have, you know, delivered on all of the RSS's core agenda points: building of the Ram Temple, abrogation of Article 370, and of course they're close to UCC, but that appears to be a distant prospect at the moment. But why this, you know, difference of opinion now?
But it has been brewing on for quite a while. You know, we had a chat with Ratan Sharda that day, and he was referring to that, you know, with success came a new brand of leaders who have joined the Bharatiya Janata Party. You know, they said that Bharatiya Janata Party is a party, you know, when Prime Minister himself said that when you talk about Ajit Pawar, you know, you're talking about 70,000 crores. 1 week down the line, Ajit Pawar is your ally in the government. They said that, you know, that the Congressization of Bharatiya Janata Party, which was happening at an alarming state, and 30% or plus more people getting tickets on the BJP ticket were from, you know, from the other parties. It was not sending a correct signal. And I think the power matrix, you know, despite all these things which you are mentioning, the power matrix was affected a bit. You know, when JP Nadda went and said that the BJP now does not need RSS, it was the biggest statement of the entire election. It did not get the due credit it should have deserved, but it was the biggest statement of the entire election. And I think now the RSS is in a position to point out exactly where you lacked. And you make this statement only when you're full of ahankar. That, you know, you don't need your parental organization to guide you through
So very clearly the RSS chief's remarks directed at BJP and BJP leaders. But I want to bring in Shantanu here on this. Shantanu, you know, we're breaking down the RSS Sarsang Jalak's speech. Now, one of the key points that emerges from that, among the 5 points that we are highlighting, is that he says the opposition is not an opponent, and the opposition should not be considered an adversary in a democracy, and that their views should also come to light. What is he hinting at over here? That be civil in your arguments, you know, don't go all out to attack each other, because at the end of the day, it's the nation that matters. You know, break it down for us. Why would he say this about the opposition?
I think, first of all, I totally disagree that the Mohan Bhagwat statement was pointed only to BJP. I think we all want to hear what we want to hear. If we hear his full speech, he is mentioning very clearly that falsehood was presented with the help of technology.
And
I'm sure we know what he's hinting about. He is hinting about the Amit Shah's deepfake video hosted by Ravindra Reddy, the sitting chief minister. And to my understanding, till date, that's the biggest reason of the less number of seats for BJP, because Dalit vote shifted. The CSDS surveys, the Dalit vote has shifted in some capacity. And he's in the same breath, he's also mentioning that the BJP government or the NDA government has done good work. He's specifically mentioned that we did economic progress. Now in defense, we are very strong. In art, culture, sports, science, we did very good. So he mentioned a lot of things. And when he says that your adversary is not your opponent, I think he's telling everyone that electioneering should be in a better mood, right? And we have realized also that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has talked to ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, ex-Prime Minister Devagoda, ex-President Shri Patil ji, but still we don't have a proper congratulatory message from Rahul Gandhi. Even Pakistan has congratulated India. Can you imagine that? And so I think it's a message for everyone, like a guiding force for the country. RSS chief has given like advisories for everyone. Everyone can take the bit from it.
I think the interesting point is
advisory
that
from the RSS
Rahul
chief
Gandhi and Congress says that that is all right for us to congratulate. We have also not received an invitation to join the entire
swearing in oath-taking ceremony.
No, they were invited. They were invited, and Kharge ji was there also.
Kharge ji was invited. Kharge ji was invited in capacity of his leader of opposition post, not as a Congress leader.
So, Ajit Kumar Jha, the opposition, not an opponent, the RSS chief's observation on this, and the fact that, politics has become so bitter and so acrimonious. We saw it in the run-up to the elections, and we saw it in the elections. Post the elections, the RSS chief saying this, what's the larger message here?
I would first of all congratulate Mohan Bhagwat. He is almost the voice of conscience right now. He has in very wise terms, he has pointed out Manipur. Remember, he said Manipur is still not solved. Now, that is a straight, I would say, criticism of the government of the day. Number one, he said the gun culture has come back to Manipur. And second, he says, I do not call the opposition Virodhi Paksh, I call it Pratipaksh. It's an opponent. It's not your opposition, right? Now,
it's not your enemy.
It's not your opponent, it's your opposition, right? Now, these are the words of, I would call, a sage. This is the time to bring down the temperature. It was one of the worst, I would call, campaign in living memory. Especially from both sides, of course, but especially after the second phase of the election. I remember April 6th, the entire tone of the election changed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the Congress manifesto a Muslim League manifesto. After that, Ghuspaiki and all the other M's came, like Mangal Sutra and things of that sort. Now, obviously, that was aimed at winning the election. We always call such campaigns silly season of democracy, where both sides attack each other. But what happens is, after you win and form the government, you have to handle governance. And governance becomes a serious issue when the country gets so badly divided as it did during the course of the election. So Mohan Bhagwat is clearly critical, I would say, of the ruling party, of the new government, the old government, of Prime Minister Modi, as well as the opposition. But the point is, for the first time in the last 10 years, I saw Mohan Bhagwat ji taking such a strong stand against the government. During the Bihar election in 2015, he had taken a rather strong stand against caste, against mandalization. But then, he retraced his steps back when that became an issue. But
that
this
threatened
time,
to snowball. But that's my second
Absolutely.
point. The observation number 2 from Mohan Bhagwat's speech, the fact that Shantanu, here's this what he had to say, that Lok Sabha poll campaign by both sides increased social tensions, and that two sides said things and no one cared about social divisions being created because of what was being done. This runs counter to the RSS's ideology of a unified Hindu society, the kind of caste rhetoric that we saw in this election. You think he's worried by the kind of polarizing caste polarization that we saw in this election?
Exactly. As I told you in my first statement, that I think his like a father figure, like a guiding organization. his message was for everyone, right? And when Rahul Gandhi started his campaign, right, the whole campaign started a year back around caste census. Though
Right.
I think that's a different point. That Nitish Kumar, who was like the leader of the caste census, left the alliance, and then they started 400 par se Samvidhan badal jayega.
Yes.
Then they started the SC/ST fake reservation, and he created the caste consciousness. I'm sure you
Yes.
remember as a journalist. At some point, Rahul Gandhi fanatically started asking about the caste of the journalist. Aapki jaat kya hai? Aapki jaat kya hai? Aapki jaat kya hai? I'm sure that's always in, and to deflect that, Prime Minister Modi, not to deflect that, to tell people the truth that we are not taking away any kind of reservation. Prime Minister Modi basically changed the camera towards the reservation which Congress has attempted to take away from the OBC reservation and give to Muslim community, which they have tried in Andhra Pradesh, Samagra Andhra Pradesh, they tried in Telangana, they tried in Karnataka. So I think that happened. So if someone will blame you, you will explain them in the process, animosity will happen. I think that's the nature of the election world over.
Right, absolutely. And Ajit Jha, the point that the RSS chief made about the caste divisions and social tensions that this election brought in, I mean, the entire Ram Mandir movement began as a counter to the Mandal movement of the late 80s. It can be argued, of course, both ways. How do you think what we just saw in the elections in the last couple of months, the rhetoric, the polarizing caste rhetoric, how does that run counter to what the RSS chief believes and, of course, what the RSS believes?
See, this is the first election, Sandeep, where the 1990s ideological warfare between Kamandal and Mandal resurfaced in such a major way. And in this election, the Hindutva forces, BJP formed the government, but you saw the losses of the BJP right in Uttar Pradesh, which was the land of the Ayodhya movement, right? And obviously, one of the reasons given is the wholesale movement of scheduled castes and most backward castes away from the BJP and the Bahujan Samaj Party towards Akhilesh Yadav.
Right.
Similar thing happened in Maharashtra, where also the Dalit movement is very strong, right? And then again, we saw a similar movement in Rajasthan, again in the heartland state. In fact, if the BJP had not done so well in states like Odisha or let's say, Andhra, Telangana, those kind of states, then the BJP's numbers would have been a bigger challenge, right? So as a result, I think Mohan Bhagwat ji is responding to the fact that the caste reservation becoming an issue has kind of weakened the hegemony of Hindutva. And in fact, in 2015, he had mentioned, and again he's mentioning, and the fact that Prime Minister Modi tried to deflect that by saying that, well, the other the opposition has given, Congress has given, will give a reservation to Muslims. That doesn't quite cut very well, because we saw it's just the opposite happening. You saw the sort of in Bengal, we saw in UP sort of massive polarization of the Muslim towards one party, which we had never seen in the past. In the past, in UP, it would be a three-cornered division. So that is not helping the BJP on the grounds. So Mohan Bhagwat ji, in very careful terms, is trying to prepare the BJP, uses the word consensus, says it's not a war. You have to bring about consensus. So I would argue, Mohan Bhagwat ji is also hinting that the singular attack on minorities is not helpful for the Modi government. The Modi government's philosophy is sabka saath, sabka vikas. So I think both, he's obviously talking to the whole nation, but I think without naming anyone, it's quite clear that he's talking about a very negative campaign, total pits during the campaign, whole country divided. Manipur, he keeps talking about Manipur.
Yes, I'll come to Manipur in a minute, Ajit Jha. But Brijesh, this point that Ajit mentioned, the fact that the caste census, the issue, debates over caste, reservations, all of this, is this going to be the BJP's biggest challenge in the next 5 years or so?
Could be. And when I'm always amused at the fact that when people say that it was a negative spread by the Congress party, and it was circulation of fake news and all. I think if you look at the number of people from the BJP, member of parliaments, deputy chief minister of Rajasthan, others who have said that once we get 400, we will change the constitution. Not once but several times. So it already had created that kind of impression that if they get 400 par, they will alter with the constitution. All of a sudden, how did Rahul Gandhi's word found so much currency that they started believing it? Because the opposition, the Bharatiya Janata Party MPs and their top leaders and their deputy chief ministers and all, they were literally hinting at, they were saying it. Forget hinting at it. And that is the reason, when Prime Minister said that, basically, he pointed out to what Congress was doing, that, that they would try to, they were trying to give Muslims a reservation. And he tried to counter it. But then the situation went beyond that. It didn't stick to that. From there went Mangal Sutra chhin lenge, Ghuspaith hiye, and so on and so forth. So the negative campaign which Mohan Bhagwat could be, 40% or 30% towards the Congress party and others, but a major chunk of 60% is with the BJP. And it'll be very interesting to see what Prime Minister now would have to say about what Nara Lokesh said, that we are going ahead with the 4% reservation to the Muslims. So will he stand true to what he was saying in the campaign and act against TDP?
Interesting challenges there for the coalition dharma in Andhra Pradesh, especially as you mentioned, Brajesh. But Shantanu, this point that the RSS chief mentioned and which you touched upon earlier, the fact that untruths were spread with the use of technology. And
I think we all know that what he's referring to. He's referring to the deepfake video of Amit Shah. And there cannot be anything more horrendous than that. I know it should be taken to a logical conclusion. And so one is the deepfake video, and a sitting chief minister, Revant Reddy, is posting it, right? And 400 पार के बाद संविधान चेंज हो जाएगा. I doubt that is because संविधान चेंज तो होता ही है. Article 368 provides you amendments in संविधान. It's the particular point that SC/ST reservation chala jayega, right? And I've seen when I was traveling in UP, like every SP cadre was carrying that video clip and spreading it, right? So I think they can be happy winning election based on a lie, and BJP should be like taken aback why their IT machinery was not able to counter it. Just a small point, one more small point. When you said Ram Mandir came after Mandal, that's like there cannot be anything more untrue than that. Ram Mandir Andolan started in 1984.
Yes, of course. But it gathered steam when
and it was adopted
Mandal
by
was,
BJP in 1989.
Right.
It was adopted in BJP in 1989, and then only, in fact, Mandal came in response of Ram Mandir rather than Ram Mandir coming in response of Mandal.
Right. Ajit, this point about the BJP's machinery failing to detect this use of deepfake technology, the spread of Revant Reddy's clip, the doctored Amit Shah video, which is possibly altered the election in favor of the opposition. How is the BJP caught napping with this? The point that the RSS chief mentions, the fact that untruths were spread with the use of technology, also points to the fact that the BJP has a formidable election machinery. It has social media teams, cyber warriors. How did the BJP not fail to counter this in time?
See, Sandeep, in the past, social media, the monopoly was with the BJP. Absolutely. 2014, 2019 elections. Look at it. The opposition hardly had any presence in social media, right? And at that time, some of the videos that where it was coming from is not clear, but use of fake news was already there. Right. We saw it in 2019, we saw it even after that. This time, things turned around. The social media had a massive presence of Congress party, of the opposition. In fact, if someone just observed the social media and not the ground, one would come to the conclusion that the opposition is gaining ground, right? Now, obviously, therefore, to counter the fake news from one side, the fake news started from the other side. Fake news is abominable, reprehensible. It should not come out, right? It should be stopped from both the sides. We journalists, for us, it's, we must condemn it, whether it comes from the NDA side or, the India Alliance side. So I am totally opposed to it. And obviously, someone, as you rightly pointed out, in the so-called this war again going on in the social media, the BJP was on the defensive, and I would say it was caught napping. It could not catch it. It was too sort of focused on creating its own kind of narrative.
Yes.
So that was a mistake. One more point let me just make out, since you asked me the caste question. Look at the composition of the cabinet, right? Look at the number of OBC ministers that the BJP government has come out with. 27, if I'm not wrong, right? 10 scheduled castes, 5 scheduled tribes. So obviously, the Mandal rhetoric or the Mandal narrative is working when it comes to the composition of the cabinet. It's almost as if half the cabinet is from the so-called OBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe sections, and 5 minorities, of course. So what I'm pointing out is that the BJP is learning to co-opt or to handle the challenge coming from the Mandal. And it is going to be a serious challenge in the future. Look at Bihar. Most of the leaders that have come, 2 Dalit leaders, straight from Bihar. One of them just has 1 MP, right? Manji, but he's in the cabinet.
Jitan Ram Manji, yes, right.
Jitan Ram Manji. Same thing with Chirag Paswan, 5 seats, but he's in the cabinet. Same thing with Karpuri Thakur's son, right? He's again in the cabinet. In fact, only 1 upper caste, if I remember, no, 2 upper castes, one from the BJP and one from the JDU. The rest, all OBC and Dalits. Similar thing from other states. So what I'm saying is, it is clearly a serious challenge, the caste issue.
Caste issue is a serious challenge to the BJP. Shantanu, you have a quick point before I go to Brijesh. Yes.
The deepfake things, not only this, OpenAI has also reported that a company in Israel was also trying to affect Indian elections in favor of Congress against BJP. And also there is a news going around that there are 17 employees in YouTube who are under inquiry who shadow banned almost 90 plus YouTube channel, which is pro-BJP. So now you're right, BJP has to be super alert. Congress has tasted the blood that these fake techniques are working. I'm sure BJP has to be super alert. Their IT team has to be super alert in future.
Right, absolutely.
I think interesting. If I just take 10 seconds, the thing is that now the hunter has become hunted. What it started with Rahul Gandhi's video that idhar aloo dalo, udhar sona nikalta hai. That was an edited video. It was circulated because Congress was oblivious of this behemoth in the room, which was the social media. The BJP deployed it to deadly advantage. Congress, Rahul Gandhi was lampooned left, right, and center. They didn't realize it till few years back. When they have upped their game to a level where now the Congress is being accused of circulating a fake video of Home Minister Amit Shah. People were arrested. But the fact of the matter is, Ajit said that, with a party which has such a big IT presence and, they have a proper, they are in the power. They are the most powerful entity in India. And if the YouTube was able to shadow ban, 90 plus of them and 90 plus of their websites and others, I think it was a massive lapse on part of the,
it's a massive lapse, and I'm sure there'll be a lot
party and the government.
Soul searching within the BJP about how they missed this. But Brijesh, finally the last point that the RSS Sarchanchalar makes is the Sang's concern over continuing violence in Manipur. And this is an issue that you at News9 have been taking up for over a year now. No one's been following it like News9. The violence that has been on in Manipur since May of last year. Over 220 people killed and 20,000 people displaced, 60,000 people displaced. Was the RSS chief's message one for, say, the Prime Minister or top officials in government to actually go down to the ground and visit Manipur and do something about it?
Well, Sandeep, it's a double engine ki sarkar. The state government belongs to the BJP. The central belongs to the BJP. Opposition is no role there per se. Congress is not that much of a political entity there. The fact of the matter is that, that Amit Shah went there. Amit Shah promised that, that he'll be coming back in 15 days. He will make sure that the violence will end. And the kind of, the chief minister looked like, sided with one ethnicity and completely trying to avoid the other ethnicity. We saw how it panned down over the course of year. I think it was a big failure on the part of the Prime Minister and also the Home Minister. The reason I'm saying big failure is because I have been covering BJP for a very long time, and one of the key issue which made Prime Minister, which made people look at BJP differently was his Act East policy. The Prime Minister had ordered the ministers that every 15 days, one minister will go to one of the states in Northeast, and there was a massive Northeast connect. It was there for everyone to see. And you cannot just say negative about it just because you are either pro or anti. But the way the entire Manipur problem was handled, it left a lot to be desired.
Right.
They thought that they will not be able to do it. When Rahul Gandhi started his second Bharat Jodo Yatra, they said that nothing will happen.
Right.
Even after the Kuki Zo community boycotted the election, and Maitis was supposed to be favoring the BJP dispensation, Sandeep, BJP lost both Lok Sabha seats
BJP
there.
lost
And Congress
both Lok
won
Sabha seats.
both
Yes,
Lok Sabha
both.
seats from
And Shantanu, this point of the RSS chiefs is anguish about the concerning, continuing violence in Manipur. How do you think the government is going to react to this? Will there be a visit by Prime Minister Modi to the ground there to hopefully try and settle things? It's been over a year that violence has been simmering and it seems to have spiraled out of control. Your comments on this?
RSS has a huge body of work in many of the regions which are traditionally or historically marginalized.
Yes.
Northeast being one of them.
The frontier regions, yes.
And BJP's Northeast policy is also a result of that, because we all understand, like the Prime Minister himself come from the RSS background.
Yes.
Amit Shah ji itself come from an RSS background. And nobody can take away from the fact what has happened, how Northeast has developed, number of airports, number of train stations, number of trains, number of highways, the money going in, the schemes going in Northeast, unprecedented in the history of India in Northeast, right? How they handled Manipur can be looked from multiple angles. The ethnic fight between Meiteis and Kukis is not a new phenomena. It happened every 10 years in different propensity. And I'm sure last time also, I remember Nityanand, the MOS home, almost parked there for a month and more. It was not able to stop it. Amit Shah went there. I'm sure they will look at it with a bigger rigor now when they're back in the government.
Right, absolutely. So lots of observations there from the BJP's ideological parent, the RSS, the conscience keeper, as our distinguished panelists have just told us this. As the RSS, as the BJP factors in lessons from the 2024 elections, this new message from the RSS Sarsang Chalak is going to be taken in very seriously by the party as it continues to look for what went wrong in 2024 and of course the path ahead for the party in the next 5 years or so. I'd like to thank my distinguished panelists very much. Shantanu, thanks for joining us, Ajit Kumar Jha, and of course Brajesh Pandey for throwing light on Mohan Bhagwat's observations on Modi 3.0. In October 1962, the US and the Soviet Union came closest to nuclear conflict. The Cuban Missile Crisis saw a direct and dangerous confrontation between the US and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. History doesn't repeat itself, they say, but it often rhymes. Now, today, a Russian nuclear-powered submarine will be in Havana from the 12th to the 17th of June. The Kazan, a Yasen-class nuclear-powered attack submarine, is said to be the quietest in the Russian underwater fleet. It's also joined by the frigate Admiral Gorshkov, named after the founder of the modern Soviet Navy, and 2 support vessels will dock in Cuba. Now, this deployment should be seen against the backdrop of Russia's statements following Western approvals for Kiev to strike at targets within Russian borders using NATO weapons. Now, President Putin has said that the use of long-range Western weapons inside Russia may prompt retaliation. So, is this deployment of Russian forces a shape of things to come? To discuss this, I am joined by Ambassador Anil Trigunyat and in the studio by my colleague Deepak Badana. Ambassador Trigunyat, let me start by asking you this. President Putin seems to know which historical crisis to hashtag. You know, sending a nuclear-powered attack submarine to Cuba with a frigate armed with hypersonic missiles just at the time when the West has signaled, greenlit the use of weapons, long-range weapons by Ukraine into Russian territory. Is this President Putin posturing or is there more to come?
Well, I think at the moment he's posturing, and as you rightly mentioned that he has been talking about that the nuclear weapons are not there for show, essentially,
yes,
even though he does not want to get into that war. The fact remains is that very recently, if you remember, that Russians have also said, and Americans also treat the Russians as enemy states.
Yes.
So this is the first time that we have seen that they have been treating each other as enemy states. And this Russia-Ukraine war from the very beginning
yes,
is not seen as a war between Russia and Ukraine. but between Russia and the US and the West. And that's why whatever is happening is the escalation. And with an intent that perhaps what happened during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis would become the end result and the Americans would not push beyond. Now that the Americans have gone back and started supplying long-range missiles and other arms to Kyiv, and likewise, they're forcing the other Western countries to provide as much as possible, with not a caveat, which used to be a caveat that they will not hit inside the Russian territory.
Yes.
But apparently, now it has been opened up. So that means Russia says that those countries that are involved in this or their weapons are involved are equally the target for them. So what we are seeing is, unless there is some way of controlling it,
yes,
I feel that there is going to be an escalation. And it depends on how the Russians are going to react, because Cuba has been historically a strategic partner for Russia and the Soviet Union, and it has been the backyard of the United States,
yes,
and always at odds with them. And so, therefore, this is a strategic, I would say, deployment, which is very much there from 12 to 17, apparently to do exercises,
yes,
but also to project their new kind of weapons. As you know, that Russia has not used its real weaponry
yes,
in this war so far, Russia-Ukraine war.
right.
But this is now going to be really something that they have kept just in case the war escalates with NATO.
Yeah, very dangerous indeed. Ambassador Trigunya, you mentioned the weapons that Russia has deployed to Cuba would frighten a few people. And Deepak, you've been tracking the weapons, the hypersonic weapons that Russia has been fielding. Can you tell us a bit more about what hypersonic weapons are that this submarine Kazan and the Admiral Gorshkov carry?
So Russia's got 3 hypersonic missiles which are like all of them have been tested.
Yes.
And I'm not too sure if they've been used in Ukraine, but Russia has given ample proof.
One of them has the Kinzhal.
The Kinzhal. So they've got the Iskander,
yes,
they've got the Zircon, and the Avangard.
Right.
So these are the 3. And there is, Russia has proven beyond doubt that they are effective. So they've done a number of tests. Now, even if such a missile was launched from Russia, it would be difficult to intercept.
Yes.
We're talking about speeds of as much, as high up to Mach 25.
Right.
Right. Where a normal ballistic cruise missile would be somewhere around, say, Mach 7 or 8.
Yes.
Right. So even if it was launched from Russia, it would be difficult for most anti-missile systems to intercept.
Yes.
But coming from Cuba, which is some 110 miles off the coast of Florida, it would be almost impossible to even see it coming.
Right.
So this is Russia just, cocking a gun at America's head.
Right, absolutely. Pointing a gun at America's soft underbelly. And that's something that Putin does very well, which is posturing. But, Ambassador Trigunya, I was just listening to this interview by the Serbian president, Alexander Vucic. He just gave an interview to a Swiss channel, Swiss-German channel. And his interview is very interesting. He says that all signs point to a major war in Europe. And he said we are heading for a major catastrophe. And he says that the train has already left the station. It can no longer be stopped. And he says no one in the West is talking about peace. They're only talking about more war. The West thinks that it can win, it can take out Russia. It's a very, very interesting interview, alarming one. And given the fact that it comes from the Serbian president, let's not forget Serbia is where the First World War began and it led to the Second World War. Is the West looking at the prospect of this kind of war spiraling out of control in Europe?
Well, I think that Europe has been the biggest sufferer of this particular conflict which is going on between Russia and the West, or Russia and Ukraine. They have been impacted badly, very badly, economically and otherwise. Now, as far as Serbia is concerned, of course, the Serbians and the Hungarians do generally are more aligned to the Russian position.
Yes.
And they don't want to have the kind of things that the Western countries like France or Germany or others are trying to do in Ukraine, and trying to bring up Ukraine as a front for their ambitions. But they feel that probably it is the US foreign policy that is to contain or to decimate Russia, or to have a regime change of basically trying to remove Putin, where Putin is the strongest leader today. So I think that none of those have been successful. And if the war somehow happens, and only countries that you can find today who are really gung-ho, I don't understand the French policy, because they say that they are even ready to send their forces in Ukraine, which would directly mean that there would be a NATO would be directed. And NATO war means just next door. Secondly, in reality, the Europeans have not remained very focused on their defenses. Even though they have a collective NATO defense system, but the number of forces and they've not kept up. That's the reason that today you see the maximum number of orders that are coming for American military industrial complex is from the European countries.
Right.
And so I think that they know it, that happens, and Putin has not minced any words, even though in St. Petersburg forum earlier this week, he spoke, he said he is not going to use it. It's not the time as yet. That's what he says. It's not time as yet to use these weapons. But they have the maximum number of this arsenal, biggest arsenal in the world, and they think that if it comes to that, push comes to shove, then they will probably use it. So that's a very difficult situation, very difficult to predict. We hope that this is just an exercise, but this is how things pan out. And we had seen what happened during Soviet, but at that time, both the leaders talked to each other.
Yes, I think Ambassador Trigonia, the leadership then in the Cold War seemed to be far more mature than they are today, it seems. Yes. They seem to have a system of regular conversation and talking to each other and de-escalating when they felt things were spiraling out of control. But this certainly is not the case today. It seems like they're spoiling for a conflict.
Yeah. In fact, Sandeep, Putin had several times approached the Americans as saying that I would like to join NATO.
Yes.
What is the fear there? So, but they just don't want it, because see, for the military industrial complex to succeed, it is absolutely essential that there are conflicts.
Yes.
So that's their policy, and unfortunately, the US has been not been very mindful of other countries' security, whichever way you look at it, and that's why you are having a situation like this, which might escalate into a nuclear conflagration.
Absolutely, and as you pointed out very correctly, Ambassador Trigunia, the fact that the military-industrial complex needs such conflicts, that was highlighted, Deepak, if you remember 2 years back, the MEA statement said that Ukraine was becoming a proving ground, a testing ground for various new weapons and technologies of warfare, and that indeed seems to be the case over here as well in the last 2 years. But that's all we have time for today. But Ambassador Trigunia, thank you very much for highlighting this, our downslide towards what we fear is increased scope of the conflict, first in Europe and now at Biden's doorstep, with President Putin signaling with nuclear-powered attack submarines and frigates armed with hypersonic missiles. One can only hope better sense prevails at the end of the day.